What I said to my son when he was 17 as my last advice is find out what you really like, and if that helps the society, that's the way to go. And I think he's doing a good job, even though there are some ups and downs so far. And as for me, I believe I have worked out. So there are failures and successes, but if I reflect back my life at the age of 74, this is what I see. The life is a continuous process of solving problems. I think that's easy way to picture the passage we take and go through the process of plan, do, check, act, or check, act, plan, do, checking what's going on, analyzing, figuring out, develop a plan, and act upon it, and continue that cycle, which is basically the same cycle of continuous improvement that I shared in my books. And along with it, I mentioned about waste elimination and empowering people so that everybody can be happy in what they do and utilize their talent and run their, what I call, mini company. Be the president of the area of responsibility and customer-oriented, even to write the annual report and share the ideas with people called glass ball management. What's important is made visible. So the whole organization, if they run with this principle, which I did over 35 years or more, connect to the company strategy and all of that, that would help transform the organization. And I believe I did very successfully. But what's interesting is because I got interested in Zen and Buddhism, I'm from Japan, and when I'm in the States, for example, people ask the question I couldn't answer. So I spent so much time into it, as much as I spent time to my work. And what I found is that there's a linkage between what I did as work and also what I did like hobby or my interest related to how I live my life. So the organization is to solve the problem, continuously improve, develop the strategy, implement, check what happened, and move on, satisfying the customer and also employees, customer-supplier relationship across the board. The same approach can be found in individual me, Kiyoshi Suzaki. I have this organization, and as much as mini company in the company setting or the society or the non-profit organization, whatever the organization is, I have me and the mini-me or mini-mini-me, as in analogous to mini company or mini-mini company within myself. So I have one of my mini-me may be interested in work or hobby or relationship or health or finance, or be truthfully and sincerely living my life. So I monitor those as KPI, key performance indicators, go through PDCA, CAPD, continuously improving. So that's the process of solving problem in my personal life using the idea I shared in the books and seminars and videos I worked over 40 years, but also applying the same kind of idea, also related to Zen, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, Sufism, but mainly from my background in Japan and my interest to find Zen as very difficult, lots of paradox. And I thought that's interesting to look into, to explore, that at the old age I can play with it. And that sounds like not a good idea, but the playfulness to me is important to be creative. So that's what I've done over 40 years or so, and even had the awakening experience I shared somewhere in the year 2000. And after that, even with that awakening, what I call awakening, to see myself transparent, the energy flowing, no blockage. So the transformation I found, but is also going through the process of the change. Everything is impermanent, and there's some problems, hurdles to overcome, some suffering. If I get too complacent, I found I make mistakes. And one of the mistakes I can remember is something related to money. Maybe relationship too, but not going there, but the money. If I have enough money or lots of money sometimes, I get complacent to do something a little stupid, and I get burned, stock market, whatever, and learn the lesson. So in life, there are those problems that happens. I think the problem happens unexpectedly are the more dangerous problems causes suffering because you're not prepared. So the life has such a wonderful platform or the space that we can play the way of life, this way and that way, and we are the one playing, but we are the one to pay the penalty, share the suffering, maybe on your own, on my own, but even others. That's the problem, because if you cause suffering to others and yourself, I'm not wise. So the study of Zen, Buddhism, and in related to Zen, but through Daisetsu Suzuki, I get familiarized so much because it's so fascinatingly interesting. And he mentioned about the Myokonin or Shin Buddhism, and there's something very fascinating about the character. For example, Saichi is the one that I studied a lot and then going back again right now. And the point of this video is solving a problem and how we do it. To say it simply, we need to know what the problem of life is individually. And if I reflect back, the nature of the problem changed, because when I was young, I may be much, much more interested in women, for example. I cannot laugh at it, but it's a natural way that the instinctiveness, whatever built in DNA, and we are attracted opposite sex, and to explore what is out there. And when you are not familiar with the field, any subject you choose, I talked about the 6th element already: work, hobby, relationship, health, finance, and living truthfully and sincerely. I call it the life profile I put in the YouTube. I monitored that for the 20-some years after my awakening because I want to navigate my life, but still make mistakes. But I can have the KPIs, key performance indicators, even have the numerical figures and learning and little comments every 3 months, 6 months, whatever the term is, but I kept doing for 20-some years. So that gave me the sense of looking at myself more objectively and see the strategy and what happens. So what's important in life has to be defined by myself. And it's tricky because the world will tell you what the problem is, like a marketing program, that you have to buy this and you have to do this. But you are the one to pay the price for that, and result comes to you or even to your friends and family. So that's a fairly complex situation. So problem solving of life, I believe, is a critical thing, and we need to have a good perspective that way. And I'm sure I can write a book about it, but at this age, I'm not inclined to write it because once I write it, nobody's going to read it. It's too thick or too complex or convoluted, and people want some quick answer. And this is not something you can get the quick answer. So by itself, nobody's going to read it, or maybe the number is limited. I found my books was effective in implementing the organization transformation, but individually, writing the book and video, all of that sounds difficult. But the approach I have been taking is to use the YouTube as a platform for me to be truthful, sincere, and find the wisdom, things to confirm in living life and share it. And if people read it, respond it, that's fine. If not, That's for my own, it's not annual report, it's almost like a daily report of what's going on. But I want to capture, because the life is fairly important for me, so that I don't look at the short term, but also long term and effective way. And in that process, I went through so many reference books and so forth. So I have the gem of the books that I have, maybe 25 books, whatever the number, upstairs. And there are people I met personally or through books that I feel living inside of me. Because I got so much interested, and I use the word resonating sense of what the story is. And if I connect them, the world is, or the universe that I live in, has so much wisdom floating around for me to process it in the manner that makes sense. And it's a biological process. It's not just a mind process of doing this and that and figuring out, but because life is biological process, let's call it. Something is alive, all the DNA is functioning, liver and lung and heart and blood flowing on their own. Mind may have some control, but they do their own work, law of nature, coming up from whatever the past, for me to be alive and finding that I have the miracles operating in me. So solving the problem of life is not to be done only, some to be done in the mind, because if the mind is directing into the wrong direction, you get into lots of troubles. But you have to understand the law of the universe manifesting everywhere, because that's how we exist biologically. And if we die, the particles get together, atoms form its own process to find new life and move on. So it's a continuous flow, or the journey of the universe taking its own course, and we are floating on the surface of the wave, so to speak, which I shared already. And if you have that identification of me with mind to figure out what to do, but also connected to the law of the universe manifesting all the time, that's the gap that I talked about, two identity or two universes that we need to bridge and align. And more important is to really realize what's out of the mind in what's happening. How the creativity idea comes up, and you go back to what the idea pops up. You come up with memories and experience in the past, people's word, books, video, whatever, and some are more attractive than others. And they seem to synthesize in some way or the other organically to come up with the wisdom. If you go deeper into our being, not just the surface level mind. It's like a surface level is, just taking care of the tactical issues, but when it comes to the root of our being and solving the problem, you cannot just use your mind. And I said that. I spent 3 days or even more if something is important. And that's what I'm doing and I have been doing, utilizing the youth as a mechanism to share for my own sake, but possibly others to exchange ideas. As much as I got the benefit from many, I can test out to see what I'm saying may make sense or not. And through that exchange process, just like I was talking about the organization, the mini company, to share ideas with each other, to have the sense of the organic, what's the word, symbionic? Or, the way that organically come up with the solution, like when there's a wound, cut the finger, the blood will figure out, we have a way of figuring out. The mind has the problem, the mind has a way to figure out. If it's a deeper problem and core to the source of our being, there's also the miraculous force, self-organizing force, as if the wound is cured. So that's the kind of framework I'm looking at, and me as the experimenting device, and see whether I'm alive and liberated or happy being or connected to the root of the universe, so to speak, and find the passage, riding the wave of the universe, as I often call it. And that's where I am at. So it's a very interesting problem-solving process, if I call that. It's a wisdom, but to go with the wisdom is the compassionate sense. Because it's not just for my own, it's a part of me and collection of it. And the collection is connected to other being, benefiting from other reference point, as if they're alive, even though they may have died 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago. The words I can relate to. And that resonating sense give me the power, the energy passing through generations over time and space, and I find it alive. And I think that's the key, well, maybe you can call it KPI. And actually I have that KPI on that one. I call it the waku-waku, the sense of aliveness. Because when that happens, as if connecting to the root of the universe, there's the joy of the particles, the cells in our body, vibrating and feel happy instead of being blocked by the mind pushing this way, but the body is going this other direction, or part of me is doing this and that, but not relating to the other mini-me. Then you have all the blockages, and that is the cause of the unbalanced way of living, unharmonious and not aligned to the source. Therefore, of course, there's some suffering even if we may not notice it. But as we get to notice, be sensitive to all the being of how we are constructed and how they can engage themselves and work together to solve the problem, then the full utilization of who we are is functioning as if that's the right thing to do and be happy. And to do that, we may go over the self-interest, ego, many others. But that's the spirit I am in, while I may last for a while, and hoping that I call it the repetition is mother of skill, and the repetition is the source of power, if we are doing the right thing. And that's the way I'm orienting to figure out, sort things out. In the unknown, see that we travel, and there's war and climate change, disease, many casualties and unknowns and the difficulties we may face. But still, I believe, I don't know if that's the right term, my faith, because the mind cannot reach out to that. So you have to kind of have faith to relate to the source of who we are, original self or true self, which represent the law of the universe. Then there's alignment, and we have faculty to feel it and sense it with the idea of the waku-waku or resonance or transparency sense. There's no blockage. So world has lots of problems. We see that. But there's a way, not just be caught up in those, but also related to the source of who we are. What's available, what's the situation happening. There's miracles happening of us being alive. So let's see what we can do, I can do, and find the passage. to solve the problem and have fun in the process, individually and hopefully with people, to check and balance and have fun. Thank you.